Welcome back, 3D students. In this video, we're going to begin to construct the next component of our control rig, which are the helpers. Helpers act as kind of intermediary objects that allow us to link the control objects we're going to create to the bones. In 3D Max, we can't directly link the control objects to the bones because that will disrupt their own hierarchy. In Maya, we can do that, but not in 3D Max. So let's get started. This is what we have so far. Let's go ahead and hide the character mesh. And I'm going to enter default shading so I can look at my bones. And let's start by creating a layer for our helper. So let's click away in our scene here so we don't have anything selected. Come to the layer manager. And by the way, you can switch views right here at the bottom of your scene explorer with these two buttons. So let's make sure we're in the layer view. And I don't need the scene explorer here, so I'm just going to undock it and close this one. So let's go ahead and click the plus sign here. I'm going to name this helpers and make sure it's the current layer. And in the command panel, make sure you have create selected. Under our things that we can create, one of the categories is helpers. So click that button, and here are the different types of helpers we can create. We're going to use point helpers for what we're doing. So click point and then just click anywhere in your scene. And then let's go to the Modify tab. And this is just a little crosshair right now. We've got different options here. We can make it a point. We can turn this little point on. We can turn that off, and you can see it's just a point. We can give it axes, arrows here that say which axis is which. And we can give it a box. So let's give it a cross and a box. And we can also adjust its size right here. So let's make it about 8. And then we're going to snap it to this bone right here. Now when we snap it, we're going to use not Quick Align this time. We're going to use the Align tool. So if you click the Align tool and hold, you'll see different types of align options. I want you to select the one without the lightning bolt, and then click the middle spine bone. And then this menu pops up. You want to make sure all 3 axes are checked. You want to make sure we're aligning by pivot point, and you also want to make sure we're aligning by orientation. And then click OK. And let's zoom in a little bit and maybe make this a little smaller so it fits right on top of the bone. And then let's name this. We're going to name this PT capital CTRL point control underscore spine 01. And let's go ahead and copy that name because we're going to use that naming convention throughout our helper creation. And this helper is going to control this bone, but we also need one to control this bone. But in the process of telling you that, I just realized that I did something a little backwards. This bone right here should be the root bone, not the hip bone. So let's name this one, rename this one root, and then let's turn off its fins. And then let's turn on the fins for this one. And this one should be the hip. So that means we need to redo our hierarchy a little bit. Let's take this one now, and we're going to parent the legs to this new root bone. So click the top leg bones, like so. Get your link tool and link them to that new root bone. And then we're also going to have to parent the hip bone to the root. And let's check and make sure that works. Select that hip bone and see if it will rotate independently. And then select the hip bone and make sure everything rotates with it. All right, now let's look at the fins here. Let's look at the fins. Need to work on this a little bit for the hip bone. Pull that one back in. And pull these side fins in a little bit. And we can leave the colors as is. Okay, sorry for that. So let's go ahead and make another point controller here. Let's make sure that this one is, well, it shouldn't have moved, but I'm going to go ahead and get my align tool again and make sure that it's aligned. It is. All right, now we need to make one to control the hip. So let's hold down Shift and simply drag that controller we created out and make it a little smaller and maybe make it a different color. And then we're going to align it to the hip bone. Make sure all these are checked and pivot point, everything is checked. Once you do it, it should just keep doing it that way. And then we're going to rename this one Point Control Hip. And now let's make another copy of the larger one and zoom out a little bit. And the shortcut for the align tool is Alt-A, so I'm going to use Alt-A this time. And I'm going to click this head bone here. Everything is checked. Click OK. And this is going to be PTCTRL head. Now, before we leave here, let's go ahead and constrain these bones to their proper helpers. The hip bone needs to be constrained to this one. So what we're going to use is animation constraints here. We're going to use orientation constraints and position constraints. Orientation constraints are for rotation only. So select the hip bone, go to Animation, Constraints, Orientation Constraint, and then click on the smaller hip controller. And you should not see any movement. If it moves, that means you did not align the helper in orientation. So now we're going to constrain the spine bone to the spine controller. So click the spine controller, go to Animation, Constraints, Orientation Constraint, click on the spine controller, and then let's constrain the head to the head controller. Animation, Constraints, Orientation Constraint, and then click on the helper. Now let's check and see if they work. Click on the head helper and get the rotate tool and see if it will rotate the head. If you click on the move tool and move it, it'll just move and it won't move anything, but it will move. Click on the second spine controller and see if that rotates. It does. And then click on the hip controller and see if that rotates the hip independently. And it does. So when we come back in the next video, we're going to set up what are called IK controls for the arms and the legs. And then we'll continue setting up our point controls for the rest of our rig. And I'll see you then.